to reach every town and village in the world. And it was Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur who left Navadvip to come to Kolkata, gave this instruction to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada left from Kolkata to go to the West. So not only is Kolkata the gateway to Mayapur, but it is from Mayapur the gateway to the whole world. So Lord Nityananda Prabhu, his mercy is so greatly emphasized by our beloved acharyas. All the biographers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat, Vrindavan Das Thakur, Kaviraj Goswami, they all give all credit to Nityananda Prabhu. Only by his mercy have we received Lord Chaitanya's mercy. Only by his mercy do we have the power to reveal Lord Chaitanya's pastimes and teachings to the world. So this evening I would like to very briefly discuss some of the events of Lord Nityananda Prabhu's pastimes in this world. Ekachakra is a very ancient historic place. The Pandavas lived there with Queen Kunti. Many, many great personalities throughout the Vedic history. And long ago, there was so much wealth and opulence in Ekachakra. All the people there were very pious, very deeply spiritually minded. And there were so many great scholars of all the different philosophies and great devotion to Vishnu. It was there that the son of a very learned Brahmin Pandit named Ojha was born. He was Hadai Ojha, because he became a very great scholar of the scriptures, and he was so devotional. His name was given Hadai Pandit. He was married to a lady who had all auspicious, devotional, exalted qualities. Srimati Padmavati Devi. Since we have been interrupted by this reorganizing, I'd like to go back a little. Among all the great scholars of Ekachakra, there was one very learned, exalted soul who was not only a deep devotee, but he was a great astrologer. He predicted, according to astrology, according to the Shastras that he was studying, that Ekachakra was the most fortunate of all places because the Supreme Lord, Balaram, would take birth here. And all the other astrologers and all the other pundits, they all discussed this, and they were convinced, yes, this will be. But then that Brahmin, he became sad. He said, I will not live to see the Lord take birth in our town. Hadai Pandit, Padmavati, just after their marriage, Hadai Pandit's mother and father both passed away from the world. It was a sad situation. And soon after that, Padmavati gave birth to the most illustrious little child. His beauty, his lotus-like eyes, his resplendent golden complexion, his body, it was irresistibly attractive to everyone's eyes and hearts. People called him many names. Some called him Rama. Some called him Nityananda. But most people just called him Nitai. Padmavati and Hadai Pandit and everyone in Ekachakra, their lives were totally focused and centered on giving Nitai happiness. When he smiled, there was no problem that could possibly come in anybody's minds. Everyone just wanted to hold this little child in their lap. His body was as soft as freshly churned butter. And just seeing his glance, just touching him, just hearing him, would remove all distress, all lamentation, and fill everyone's hearts with joy. From his very birth, he was literally inundating people's hearts with love. Before he took birth, there was droughts, there was famines, there was so many problems in that area. But as soon as he took birth, everything on every level became auspicious. He was growing up. He crawled, then he started to walk, then he started to run. And through all these different stages, Padmavati Devi, she just could not tolerate even a moment when she wasn't holding her child. Such motherly love. She would be constantly thinking about him. And Hadai Pandit was the same. He would have to go to the fields to do agriculture. He would sometimes have to go shopping. But as soon as he would leave the house, after a few seconds, he would have to run back and just look at Nitai. Then he would go back and he'd have to run back to see Nitai. This is the deep attachment they had for him. And when Nitai got a little older, he played the most extraordinary games with his friends. Not ordinary games. He enacted the pastimes of Krishna and his various incarnations. How could a small child know these pastimes? This was a mystery to everyone in Ekachakra. He was the producer, the director, the leading star. He would help to make the wardrobes. He would put on the makeup and cosmetics. He would make the backdrop scenes. He was organizing every detail with such happiness, and all his little friends were so blissful just to do whatever Nityananda wanted to do. And so many wonderful leelas were done. He would have his little friends going to the ocean of milk and praying to Vishnu. One is dressed up as Mother Earth, who is dressed up as a cow, begging Brahma, please help me. I'm being plundered by the people of this world. It's very interesting. Krishna's birth. It begins with Mother Earth. Mother Earth coming to Brahma, expressing her great sorrow that there are so many greedy, arrogant people who are plundering me and exploiting me and misusing my children. What she must be feeling now, Mother Earth, with all the exploitation and all the ecological problems and all the pollution due to greed and greed alone. Greed and arrogance. And how these children, with their hearts, they were little children. They weren't just acting, playing, oh, I'm Mother Earth now. They were crying, please save me. Brahma, please help me. Let us go to the ocean of milk. And then they'd be praying, and all the little children were like demigods praying to Vishnu, please help Mother Earth, please help all of us. And then one of the boys would speak, I will come to the earth. And then he'd change the scenes, and there would be the marriage of Vasudeva and Devaki, and then there would be Kamsa getting that voice that the 8th child is going to kill you. And then the boys, under Nityananda's direction, would make a prison cell. And they'd actually go out of their homes right at midnight. They did everything so shastrically, so accurately. And Krishna would be born in a prison cell at midnight. And then one of the boys would take a little baby Krishna across the river Yamuna and bring to Vasudeva, or to Nanda and Yashoda Mai's house. They would have Nandotsav, a grand celebration. Nityananda Prabhu, he would just have such a beautiful celebration, just like Nandotsav and Gokul Mahavan. All the children celebrating, and the adults would be watching. How is this possible? What are they doing? And then just in the forests they would do this, and in the pastures. The deliverance of Putana and Sakatasura, and then they would go and Nityananda Prabhu, the little children, they would run into different people's houses to steal butter and ghee and yogurt. And the people were so charmed. In Krishna Lila, they would pretend to get angry. But Nityananda was so charming that even though he was coming into their houses and stealing their butter, they would say, Nitai, Nitai, come sit on my lap. And they'd embrace him and cry in happiness and say, Nitai, steal anything you like. So they made a snake out of leaves and put it in a lake. And the deliverance of Kaliya. They lifted Govardhan Hill. Very dramatic performances in great detail. But what really astounded people, because usually Nityananda Prabhu always took the role of Krishna, because he was so engrossed in Krishna. Being Lord Balaramji himself, he was so immersed in loving devotional sentiments to Krishna. He was so absorbed in Krishna's pastimes, he would enact these pastimes. But then when it came to the Leela of Akrura, taking Krishna and Balaram from Vrindavan, Nityananda Prabhu played the role of a gopi. So he could feel the ecstasy of the love of the gopis in their pangs of imminent separation. And as the children were just playing their roles, there's a Krura and there's a little, they didn't even have a chariot, they just pretended to have like a chariot, and everyone was there, and Hare Krishna.
Can you all come, please come, sorry Maharaj, can you please all come towards Maharaj, more closer? You are all lucky, please come. Because many devotees are standing and they need to sit down. And please come more closer that we can give chance to all those who are standing. They can all hear Maharaj and get blessed. Please come more nearer as much possible. It is cold outside. It will become more warmer. Please come. Please come. And the sound system, you can make it a little more clearer. That will be highly appreciated. Thank you. Okay. Little louder. Thank you, Maharaj.
As they were playing this most heartbreaking pastime, Nityananda Prabhu, in the role of a gopi, sing a Kurara, taking Krishna out of Vrindavan. He cried and he cried and he cried incessantly. Genuine, deep, soulful tears. He was beside himself. And the children, and even the parents of the children, nobody could act this way. These are like dramas. But Nitai, he was actually manifesting these leelas. They were struck with wonder. He couldn't even walk. He couldn't even stand. Just weeping and weeping and weeping. And they performed all the primary leelas of Ramayana. And in the leela where Ravana approaches Lakshman, and Nityananda Prabhu was playing Lakshman, that scene. He said, I am going to kill you with my Shakti Shila weapon, and threw a lotus flower on Nityananda. And when the lotus flower touched him, he fell to the ground unconscious. There was no signs of life. Heartbeat, pulse, breath. Nobody could detect it. He seemed to be dead. Nobody knew what to do. The children were gathered in a circle around little Nitai, crying and crying. Then the parents came and they were crying, and Padmavati and Hadai Pandit, they were besides themselves in grief. What happened? What happened? How did this happen? He said, I just threw a lotus flower. He told me. He told me to do it. They tried to revive him, but they could not revive him. And then one of the little boys, actually one of the saints who happened to be there, he said, did he give any instructions to any of you boys of what to do if this happens? And one of the little boys said, yes, yes. He said, if I fall down, make sure Hanuman comes to bring me a medicinal herb. And this boy, he's supposed to be Hanuman. And the boy says, yes, yes, now I remember I'm Hanuman. And he went running, and he did a whole Leela according to the script of Nityananda Prabhu. He went to a mountain, and he started carrying a mountain. And as he was carrying the mountain with all the herbs on it, this crocodile, a demon in the form of a crocodile, attacked him, and Hanuman fought with that. And then he came back, and finally, after all kinds of enactments of different scenes, the boy comes back, Hanuman boy, with a medicinal herb. And Nityananda Prabhu gets up and smiles. Somebody asked Nitai, how do you know these Leelas so exactly? Nobody ever told you these. You're only not even 10 years old, and you're enacting every day so many pastimes, all day, every day. How do you know them? And Nitai smiled. And he said something that was so true, but nobody could understand what he said and why. His answer, how do you know these Leelas? He just smiled and said, these are my pastimes. The amazing thing is sometimes they would be playing these Leelas all night, all day, and no parent was disturbed that they were taking all the children to play with them. They were all so happy. They tell their children, anytime, anywhere, just go with Nityananda Prabhu. They just wanted Nitai to be happy. In this way, life was going on in Ekachakra. Everyone was filled with ecstasy. And the ecstasy was getting deeper and deeper as each day was going on. Vrindavan Das Thakur tells, not too far away from Ekachakra, in Navadvip, Lord Gauranga was born. And at that moment, there was no internet or communications on any material level to give news of these things. But Nitai knew. And at the moment, on the Gaur Purnima of the birth of Lord Chaitanya, Nitai, in his ultimate ecstasy, he roared in happiness. And it just shook all directions. And after this, while he was doing all his leelas with his friends, he was thinking that I have descended into this world to assist my beloved Lord Gauranga in his pastimes of compassion. He is my life, my soul, my everything. But how? How will I ever be able to leave Ekachakra to assist my Lord in his incarnation. Everyone is so totally attached to me. I'll never be able to just leave them. So he was thinking like this. Then, by his own intimate mystical arrangement, one day, a mysterious sannyasi entered Ekachakra. Very pure-hearted, great saint. He inquired, "Where is the house of Hadai Pandit?" When Hadai Pandit met him, he was so happy, because this is the Vedic culture, especially Vaishnav culture, that when a sadhu comes to your home, it's the greatest joy and the greatest blessing to serve them, to fulfill their desires. So Hadai Pandit, he invited this sannyasi into his home. He gave him a nice sitting place, washed his feet, offered him prasad cooked by Padmavati. The sannyasi said, "I will not eat your prasad unless you promise me that you will fulfill my request." Hadai Pandit, he said, "Oh, please, this prasad, it is the greatest honor we have to serve you. I will fulfill any request you have. Please, honor prasad." So he took the prasad of Hadai Pandit very happily. And then throughout the entire night, they just talked about Krishna. And in the morning, just as that sannyasi was about to leave, he said, "You have promised to fulfill my request. I'm a sannyasi. I'm all alone. I am traveling to all the great holy places, and I need a companion. Someone who will help to cook for me, someone who will help me with the menial chores that are required. Give me your son, Nityananda. I will take care of him as my own loving child and protect him." Hadai Pandit, this was an unbearable shock. It was like the most frightening, powerful thunderbolt striking his soft heart. His heart was broken. He was delirious. He didn't know what to do. He didn't know what not to do. But he was a great Vaishnav. And we learn to see through the eyes of the scriptures. Sometimes good times come to us, and sometimes tragedies, dangers, failures. We learn to see all these situations through the eyes of the scriptures. And what did the scriptures tell? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he extracted the very essence of all the scriptures of how we can actually understand God. Mahajano yena Katha sabandha. By following in the footsteps of the great souls. Hadai Pandit was thinking, he's not just asking for my son, he's asking